health and wellness initiatives with the Houston Parks and Recreation Department. Fabulous. It was just wonderful working with them. And I found that these city leaders and department directors were very receptive to our ideas, the ideas that the Disability Committee had. They just didn't know. You know, it was a matter of education. They were so happy for us to say, hey, we're here and we can help you. And they said, well, come on and help and tell us what to do. You know, we formed committees, you know, to actually go out to these various parks and look at them and figure out what we could do better. Not just how we can comply with the law, but how we can really make these parks and recreation and spaces more inclusive so that people can actually participate and use them, not just sit there and watch other people use them. With playgrounds, for example. We built the first inclusive playground, truly inclusive playground in Houston, and there's a few in other places around the city. We're about to add, and around the nation, I apologize. We're about to add 2 more in Houston. So these are playgrounds that as a kid, you can go up to the very top of that playground and participate fully and run around and be with the other kids and not just watch from the sidelines, you know. As I hope a future mother, that's a pretty important thing as well, because there are a lot of parents with disabilities who want to be able to participate and play with their children. And let me just say, it's not just for kids with disabilities. These playgrounds are just awesome. Everybody gets to play on them, and kids love them. They are so much cooler than the usual playgrounds, as the kids always say. You know, they say this is the best playground ever. You know, so it's pretty neat. So anyway, I was participating on that, and then the mayor appointed me to the Houston Parking Commission so I could help direct ways that the city could develop their accessible parking initiatives that combat parking abuse, accessible parking abuse, and add more accessible spaces. And gosh, then I was also on the Mayor's Wellness Council, and hey, by that time, the city might as well have hired me, so they did. and I went to work within the mayor's office for people with disabilities. Absolutely loved it. I just couldn't stay away from research too long, is the only thing. And Andy Anderson came to me and presented me with this great opportunity. And I struggled with that decision for a while, met with the mayor, and I took it. You know, I started MD Anderson yesterday. So, at MD Anderson Cancer Center, I still have an opportunity to help people and be an advocate for patients and their rights. And I have that perspective, you know, having been a patient many, many times. So that's the long version of the story. I hope that didn't take up too much time explaining all that, but there's the path that I've taken. So I'm still, obviously, a volunteer for people with disabilities, both in the capacity as Miss Wheelchair America, and I'm still helping the city of Houston out. So.
One of the neat things about going to a presentation of an Accessible America Award is getting to see the actual community that's given the award. And in the case of Houston, what's wonderful is the event was held at one of the accessible playgrounds. And just as Michelle was saying, it's an amazing place, and you get the feeling that it is a unique opportunity for the kids who have disabilities, but it's also an exciting place for those who don't have disabilities, and of course for the two to interact. Speaking of playing, another side of Michelle is that, well, I got to see when we're out there, is she drives a bright yellow Mini, and in fact she and her husband race Minis, hers with hand controls, so just all kinds of great stuff going on there. A question back, Julie.
Hi, could you address, please, the disconnect between the aging community and the disability community? Why you think there is such a strong disconnect, and what you think can be done about it?
Sure, and Nancy may want to jump in here too, but I'll say I think a lot of that has to do with scarce resources. The disability community is very splintered. Typically, you know, when you've got people who are so diverse, have very different disabilities, it can be easy to lose sight of the fact that there are some important commonalities. You know, that there are some common barriers related to employment, that there are barriers related to emergency preparedness, and there are barriers to housing, to transportation, to health and wellness that are shared very, very often among people with all kinds of disabilities, and that are shared with people who are growing older. You know, I think that there are several other reasons why there may be somewhat of a disconnect besides the fact that there are scarce resources and people are competing, groups are competing for funds. And I think it's a shame. I think that the more that we can work together and realize that we all have these common goals, the stronger we'll be. I think that that has to do with it, you can develop a disability at any point in your life. But listen, I mean, the fact is, we have a growing, aging population. Nobody likes to think about aging, even me.
One more year for me, I love it. Yeah, and I think too, part of it's just, Julie, it's plain old fear. The word disability has such a negative connotation that the idea that somebody is going to acquire a disability as part of aging is pretty darn frightening. And you hear all the time from your own population, oh, I don't have a disability, I just can't hear. So it's a lot of it has to do with label I'm one of those instances where aging and disability are fused in one person.
Not changing now, but I'm guessing in 5 or 10 years from now, people my age and your age won't be so resistant to saying we have a disability.
Yeah, I think that the folks who remain active longer are, especially in our generation, I always said heading health and nursing home that would inherit me, because I'll start looking at regulations and wanting to know who the patient coordinators are and want to see their last state report. But I think it's really a part of being a leader and changing the perception about what disability means and dispelling some of those old myths that just simply are no longer appropriate for today's population.
And Julie, your question sure tied in as to answering how NOD and AARP and the Accessible America Contest all connect. I do want to let people know, Mike Reynolds is here as a media consultant with NOD, and he was telling me that there's going to be a Facebook and also a Yahoo and
YouTube and
YouTube.
MySpace.
And MySpace pages for the Accessible America Contest, so some fresh ways to get the word out about that, as well as, of course, the listing on NOD.org.
Twitter.
And Twitter. Any other questions? Peter?
Seems to eventually bring us highlight what states are doing around the country for people with disabilities. Is there one thing you think that the new incoming administration, or whatever it be, could do to help cities in their efforts?
Is there one thing that is there one thing that you would want the incoming administration to do that would help cities? Well, I certainly think it starts with the concept of being supportive and understanding how important they are. I mean, you've got a National League of Cities, a U.S. Conference of Mayors, a National Association of Towns and Townships, NACO, National Association of Counties. They have a pretty strong lobbying consortium that work together, but I think people with disabilities have to understand how they can be, in turn, supportive to the mayors as well. I think that, for instance, if Juliet or Michelle or myself roll into a hearing room, and because we've asked to testify in support of community initiatives, we send a message before we ever open our mouth. And I think it's really important for people with disabilities themselves to be involved in helping communities send that message to the new administration.
Anything else? All right, well, I want to thank everybody very much for coming out here to AARP and helping us to launch the Accessible America Contest for 2009. On your way out, well, certainly first want to stress you're welcome to stick around and mingle for a while. We want you to enjoy the space. We have some snacks and some drinks at the back, coffee and juices and such. On the way out, you'll also see on the table there are some packets that have some further information you may find useful about Accessible America and the organizations. There are also some pens and Divide and Fail pins from AARP. And again, thank you so much for coming out, and really want to call on folks here, any inspiration that you may have for reaching out to the media and to other supporters for the Accessible America Contest. There are definitely some good opportunities to help things grow. If you're interested in media, Mike is certainly the guy to connect with right there. And thank you again for coming and participating in today's program.